My name is Ron Wilshire. Welcome to Clarion Connection. My guest today is Michel, a professor of theater at Clarion University. And I thought this would be a good time to talk about a new production coming next week.
Yes, on Wednesday night we have a musical opening called Edges. And it's a musical that people probably haven't heard very much about. It was written only in 2005 by a new songwriting duo called Pesek and Paul, Benj Pesek and Justin Paul. And they currently have a show running in New York called Dogfight, and are working really hard on a musical version of A Christmas Story, which was a 1980s movie that's being converted into a musical to open this year at Christmas.
Will they have a BB gun?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that should be interesting. So this is... it's called Edges, but it's a little bit edgier?
Yes, it's about the moments in your life when you feel like you're on the edge. And it's particularly geared toward young adults, late teens through their 20s, maybe into their early 30s. So it's material that the college students can really relate to, and it's easy to perform. We hope it's really accessible for not only the college students that will recognize themselves in situations they've been through, but also to people like you and me who remember those,
right.
those
Anybody
times.
that remembers those years are
Exactly.
also included.
Exactly.
So, and this is a musical?
Yes, it is. It's actually what's called a song cycle, which is a collection of songs that are related on a theme. The theme for this show being the times in your life when you feel like you're sort of on a cliff and you have to step off or move in some direction. We've done song cycles before. We did a show called I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change a few years back, which was similar but had a little more spoken dialogue to it. And then in the in 2001, we did a show called Songs for a New World, which was also a song cycle. And then before that, we did a show called Closer Than Ever, which was a song cycle. And what's interesting about this is that Closer Than Ever came out in the early 90s. And apparently, Jason Robert Brown saw that production in New York City, and it inspired him to write Songs for a New World. So we did Closer Than Ever in the mid-90s, and then we also did Songs for a New World in 2001, and Pesek and Paul were very influenced by Jason Robert Brown, so we've sort of done a generational sort of Closer Than Ever begat Songs for a New World begat Edges. So they're all related. It's kind of fun to see. Well,
a lot of theater productions today seems are either new versions of older pieces or even like rewriting it from an older version.
And also, it's pretty popular now to take a movie and move it into a musical. The producers, and now A Christmas Story. I mean, there's any number of musicals now that have been rewritten. But this one is totally original. These two guys were college musical theater majors at the University of Wisconsin. And they, as a hobby, they would get together and write songs that they wanted to sing about issues that they could relate to instead of trying to sing songs that were written for adults. And they put it together, and their friends loved it, and they started performing it, and the rest is history, as they say.
Does this have a big cast?
No, it's only 4 people, 2 men and 2 women, and it's held together very loosely. There's no story. So they play different roles throughout the piece, but then they also sort of play themselves through the entire piece. So hopefully the audience won't sit around and try to figure out exactly the story and how things go together. It's very loosely related on a theme. The 4 performers that we have are Brianna Kirkland, who is local. She's from Clarion, and she's a sophomore, and Christian Ryan, who is a junior musical theater major, who is from Lansdale, and then 2 seniors, Jordan Rembold from Franklin and Mary Wagner from Girard. And Mary is doing this as her graduation project for her Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in theater, in acting.
So more than likely the your audience has probably seen some of these people perform in past productions.
Most certainly. If they've been at Clarion University performances, they've seen them in summer shows or in other musicals. I know that Jordan and Christian were in, and Mary were all in Snoopy last summer.
Okay.
That I directed out at the Sawmill, and Mary was in our production of the Putnam County Spelling Bee a few years back. And yeah, these are highly seasoned performers.
I know Brianna was in Clarion Singers and a lot of productions.
Yes.
There at the high school and then summer theater. I think she's been involved.
Absolutely.
So.
I'm asking a lot of these student performers to carry the entire show for, almost 2 hours. And their voices blend together beautifully, and they've gotten to be such good friends that they sort of can finish each other's sentences, and it's really fun to watch them handle all the different things that we throw at them in the show.
Now, is this at the Little Theater or Marlock Boyd?
It's in the Little Theater, but you might not recognize the Little Theater when you walk in if it's been a while.
It could be pretty big for
Yes.
a Little Theater.
Yes. The seating system that we have in the Little Theater is for a black box so that we can reconfigure the way that the seats are. Sometimes you might come in and you're seated proscenium like you would in any auditorium where you're facing forward and it looks like a regular stage. And then for summer theater, we'll do it as a thrust so that we emulate the Sawmill Theater. This time we're doing in an arena setting, which is theater in the round. So there's the stage is in the middle and the audience is on all four sides of the stage. So it's very interesting for the performers. There's sort of nowhere to hide.
Sort of gladiator theater.
Yes, there's nothing. They can't have their back. They always have their back to some part of the audience. And as a director, it's pretty challenging to stage to make sure that everybody in the audience always has a good view of something. And the stage is really interesting the way the set's been designed. I have a student set designer named Dan Schreiber. And the stage itself has edges, literal it's like a broken picture frame that goes around. And they can walk up on the edges, almost like a jungle gym. And sometimes, if they want to get out, they might step over the edge or they might step on the edge, depending on what sort of metaphor we're trying to evoke in the staging. It's really fun.
You mentioned about the work required of the students. How much time and effort is put into a production like this?
I don't think anybody realizes how much time we actually spend. We actually cast this show back in May, early May, before the students left, so that they could leave with their music and learn their music over the summer. Then when we come back, we rehearse 3 to 4 hours a day, doing the music and the staging and the character work. And 5 nights a week for 6 weeks, and it moves into 6 and 7 nights a week as we get closer to the production. And in the meantime, all the students in the theater department are building the show. They're working in the shops to create all the scenery and the props and the costumes. And they probably put in 4 to 5 hours a week, 5 to 6 days a week for 6 weeks. So you do the math.
Sounds like a lot.
Yes. But when you love it, it doesn't feel like work. And our whole purpose at the university is to help students see that working hard at something that you love is a really great way to make a living.
Do your students go on to careers in theater, or is it
Yes,
variety?
many of them do. We have students acting all over Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Numerous students have gone to Chicago and are doing everything from stand-up comedy to musical theater. One girl just graduated from graduate school with an MFA in Chicago. Many of our tech students work in film and at the various professional theaters in Pittsburgh, or they'll go on cruise ships. We have Jordan Seifert has been traveling all over the South Pacific, and I believe the last thing I saw on Facebook, because that's how we all keep in touch these days, was he was in Hong Kong on a cruise ship. So he's been singing and dancing his way all over that side of the world.
So it's in a production on the cruise ship.
Yes. He's a singing and dancing sensation. He's had all sorts of exotic ports of call that he's been posting pictures of, and I've been living vicariously through him.
So if your son or daughter comes home and says, I want to be a theater major, you shouldn't panic.
No, absolutely not. What you need to take into account is how hard they're willing to work. If they come home and complain about rehearsal or complain about what they're doing, then they're not going to be happy. But I'm a firm believer that if you're doing what you love, you're willing to work hard. And if you're willing to work hard, you're going to get very good at it. And if you get very good at it, you're going to either make jobs happen for yourself or be in a place where the people will find you so that you will work. There is work out there for good, talented people that are well trained and want to do this for a living. But nobody's going to hand it to you on a silver platter. Of course, I don't think in any career these days is it offered to you on a silver platter. You have to kind of go out there.
It's tough out there.
Yeah.
I think you could transition even into sales jobs and other types of semi-related fields.
Oh, sure. Lots of employers say that they like to hire theater majors because they're well-spoken. They think quickly on their feet. They're used to being in front of people. They solve problems easily. I mean, if you're on stage and something breaks or you're caught, I remember one time my zipper came undone on stage and I had to solve that problem in front of 250 people. So we're used to solving problems very quickly and on a deadline and creatively. And employers like those qualities, regardless of what field you go into.
Probably would be good for politics, too. We won't stop.
Ronald Reagan kind of proved that. He was sort of an actor who made
he was
good.
a great communicator.
Yes, he was.
I always remember Death Valley days and doing one for the Gipper.
Yep, I can remember always watching him speak and thinking, wow, I feel better. I'm not sure what he said or if I agree with it, but he sure said it nice.
And that's in life. That's important. How they leave you, how someone leaves you feeling, not even if you remember exactly what they said.
Well, that's all what we do in the theater is try to evoke a feeling in the audience. When the audience comes to watch the show, we want them to feel something. Feel nostalgia or feel empathy or have a memory or oh good, I'm so glad that's happening to them and not me, which we call catharsis.
You're listening to Clarion Connection. We'll take a short break and be back with Michel from Clarion University.
My therapist had told me that I needed to go to AA meetings, but I wasn't sure whether I wanted to go because I didn't want to be an alcoholic. That was not what I wanted to grow up and be. I didn't want to go to AA, but I did, and it wasn't what I expected by any means. It was friendly. I could feel it. I could feel the happiness. It's really great. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up. Check your phone book, newspaper, or AA.org.
Discover great savings at Macy's Columbus Day sale and take an extra 15 or 10% off with your Macy's card or savings pass. Stock up on Levi's jeans at our lowest prices of the year. Fashion and home clearance, 40 to 85% savings when you take an extra 30% off. Shoes for her, 30% off 3 or more pair. And designer luggage closeouts, 65% off. Right now at Macy's Columbus Day sale. Savings off regular sale, original and clearance prices, exclusions apply.
Welcome back to Clarion Connection. I'm Ron Wilshire, and my guest today is Michel, a professor of theater at Clarion University, and we were talking about Clarion's new production of Edges coming up. When is that again?
Edges opens on October 10th and runs through October 14th. It plays Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings at 8 o'clock in the Little Theater. And then we have a matinee performance on Sundays at 2 o'clock. To get tickets, there are a couple ways you can get tickets. You can call the university and reserve them that way. Or there's also, if you go to the university website, there's a link there where you can pay by credit card and reserve your tickets that way.
So just go to clarion.edu and...
We're on the front page. If you go to the clarion.edu, over on the right, there'll be a little article about us, and it'll give you all the information that you need. The Little Theater is kind of small, so we're hoping the show gets very popular. And by the weekend, sometimes it does get hard to get tickets if word gets out and all the students are buying them up. So we encourage people to make plans, make reservations, take your sweetheart out to dinner and then to the theater. What could be more civilized than that?
Right. How many people does the Little Theater hold?
About 250.
250. So it's still a good size little theater.
Yes, it's not a Mark Boyd where
Right.
we can seat everybody in 3 counties, but it's enough generally to get people in. Musicals tend to be a little more popular, but with a small cast and a show that people don't know, people may be a little bit hesitant to come. Now, this would not be the show that I would bring your children to, or your young children to. There is adult language, though it's generally done in song, which is sometimes less offensive than if somebody actually says it. And there's some young adult situations. So when you're thinking about who you want to bring, you might want to consider that before you make reservations for your 8-year-old. But I think teenagers certainly can relate to and understand and take what we're offering. I don't think anything's in bad taste by any means, but we certainly deal with issues that 18 to 30-year-olds are dealing with.
Does the type of production determine whether it will be in the Little Theater or Marwick Boyd?
Not necessarily the type of production. For instance, we did Rent in Marwick Boyd, which was certainly much more controversial than this production will be. We tend to choose our season during the year to serve both our majors and the university population. So we'll do more edgy, if you will, pieces during the year that deal with more controversial subjects, more adult subject matter. That doesn't mean we're not going to do Cinderella, which we did one year. And we're doing a Shakespeare this semester. The next show that we're going to be doing is All Well That Ends Well, and we're going to have a matinee of that for the schools to come into. They make reservations and they come in for the day and they get a tour and see the shows. But we reserve the summer theater program that we do for family-oriented pieces. We always want to do plays that people can come to as a family, that is accessible to everybody from babes in arms to grandma and grandpa.
They seem to be generally better known productions where a lot of the things during the school year are more not experimental, but as you say, edgier in a way that it's just not mainstream popular yet.
Right. Well, we hope to maybe introduce the community and the university population to works that might not necessarily be commercially viable. That's what educational theater really does. We keep alive the Shakespeare. We keep alive the Greek theater. We keep alive the Chekhovs, things that aren't going to have commercial appeal, but hopefully will pass by word of mouth. Somebody went to see it and said, "Oh, wow, this is a great play I heard about when I was studying in high school or college, and on stage it's really wonderful. You got to go see it." So we see that as part of our mission during the year, is to open avenues that might not otherwise be accessible to people in the community.
You've been teaching for a while now. What's been your most rewarding experience?
Well, I'm very fond of saying that the most rewarding show I'm doing is the one that I'm doing. Whatever I'm working on is definitely my favorite production. But if I had to go back in the past and think of things that were fun, I can't actually think of anything that wasn't fun. Snoopy is always fun, and the Sawmill is always a fun place to be. Putnam County was a lot of fun, where we converted the Little Theater into a gymnasium. We actually had audience members come in to see Putnam County that thought they were in a gymnasium. They didn't realize they were in a theater. That was pretty much fun. And of course I enjoyed being on the stage when I was acting in a few things. The last thing I did was the name escapes me. But I was supposed to do Gypsy 2 years ago, and I was unable to do that because of an illness in my family. But the student that took over did a good job, and I was proud of her, and she probably did better than I might have done. Maybe not better, but she did a great job. It was different.
But that's part of being a teacher, seeing these kids evolve, and Clarion's had a lot of success at Kennedy competition at
Yes.
the Kennedy Arts Center?
Yes, we're involved with an organization called the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival. And what that is an organization, a nationwide organization that sends out adjudicators. They're other, or respondents. We like to call them respondents. And they watch productions at various colleges. And then after the production, they give you feedback. And then they vote, they get together and they vote on the productions that in the region are worthy of being remounted for national judges, actually. And so those productions are brought to a regional festival. This year, that festival will be in Maryland. And the national judges go to all 8 of the regional festivals around the country, and then they choose 5 to 7 productions that will go to D.C. Now, last year, the funding to go to D.C. actually dried up, so I don't know if they'll be choosing shows to go to D.C., but they certainly pick sort of a top tier of shows and honor those shows. And back in 2001, Songs for a New World was in that top tier. Which was kind of fun to be up there with the big leagues, the big schools performing in Washington, D.C. It's not unusual for our productions to go to the regional festival. We've had numerous productions go to the regional festival. I can't remember what the last one was, but if you come to the Little Theater, there's plaques on the wall, and you can see the names of all the different productions that have gone to the regional festivals. And it's also not unusual for our students to go and receive awards for their technical work. They bring set designs, costume designs, prop designs, stage management books, sound designs, and there's a very extensive display of all the student designers in the region being New York, New Jersey, parts of Ohio, and our students compete against that, and they generally do very well. We've had numerous people go to win the region and sometimes get awards where they might get placed at a summer theater. I think Carl Jacobson went to the Eugene O'Neill Theater and did quite well when he was at Clarion.
Now, the summer theater program, it is pretty extensive. There's 1 week at Clarion and then 2 weeks at the Sawmill Theater in Cook Forest. So that would require a lot of work.
Yes. Summer theater is a very intense immersion into the world of doing theater. We're encapsulated into 10 weeks of 2 summer sessions. And we begin rehearsal the weekend before classes begin for the first summer session. And 10 to 12 days after we begin rehearsing, that show opens. And in those 10 days, we build all the sets, build all the costumes, learn all the music, learn all the dances, hang all the lights, do all the publicity, and open that show. And it runs for a week at Clarion. And then we move it up to the Sawmill Theater for a 2-week run at the theater. While that play is running at the Sawmill Theater, we are rehearsing the next play. And so we have about 2.5 weeks to do play number 2 when we're not performing play number 1 at the Sawmill. Then we close the play at the Sawmill on a Saturday night, and the next Thursday we open show number 2 at the university. It plays at the university for a week. We close it Saturday night, pack it up in a truck, move it out to the Sawmill, open it the following week at the Sawmill, and at that point we're rehearsing show number 3. So for the first 7 weeks, we're working on 2 shows at a time, basically. And then at the end, we get a little bit of a break. But it's a real immersion. Any student that does it realizes at the end of the summer if this is what they want to do with their life.
So it's a combination of there are people taking this as a class, and then there's volunteers from the community that just love theater that are involved with it.
Yes, we're sort of semi-professional in the summer. We often hire professionals to come in to design or to play lead roles, sometimes to direct or choreograph, as well as to work side by side with our student performers on stage and behind the scenes. We have students from the university that are not majors that come in to take this to satisfy some of their liberal arts credits. And then we also open it up to community members. And we've had some real wonderful success with community members, your 2 children being 2 of our, some of our favorite alumni, as we call them. We've also had Bethany Moore, who has been on Broadway in Spider-Man for a year, who started out, her first show was Annie. Way back in the early 90s, she did Annie. I think she was about 10. Now, not way back. She's not really that old. But she was 10 years old or 12 years
In
old.
theater years, it seems like.
Yes, and Emily Ryder also was in that production of Annie. And Emily Ryder's now having a big career as an opera singer, but she looks back fondly on her experience as a community member in our productions. So we love finding those little gems of talent in the community and helping shine them up and sending them out into the world with the Clarion University Theater stamp on their resume.
So it's entertaining for the people, and it's an important first step in whatever they may end up doing later in life.
Absolutely.
Any plans for the future in terms of summer theater productions?
Yeah, right now we haven't chosen our season yet. We usually do that toward the middle or the end of the fall semester, so we're still looking at that, what we want to do next year. We're focused now on the rest of our season, which is the first one will be All's Well That Ends Well, Shakespeare's well-known play that will be in November. Then in the spring, our musical will be a play called Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson, which is a very different type of musical, and we thought it was sort of appropriate in an election year, but we'll be doing it after the fact.
This isn't like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer.
Not quite, but it is an edgy representation of Andrew Jackson. I believe there's some sort of punk band that does music for it. We're trying to find a local punk band. So if you're listening and you have a punk band and you're interested in being involved, please give us a call at the theater.
So this is things you never knew about Andrew Jackson.
Yes, absolutely. And then the last show we'll be doing is a play called Seascape, written by the American playwright Edward Albee.
Now, how did people pick these plays to produce?
We have a rotation. All of the directors and the technical people at the university get together, and we want to be sure that we do a balanced repertoire of shows, both for the community and for our majors. We do a Shakespeare every other year because we think it's important for the BFA actors. We do a musical every year because we have a BFA in musical theater, and it's important that they do a variety of styles. We'll do a classic musical, a Rodgers and Hammerstein, and then we might do something edgier like Rent and contemporary like Edges, and then we might do a Golden Age or an operetta. We try to shake it up, and then we balance that out with plays of historical value and contemporary relevance.
So it's a well-balanced meal.
That's
theater.
exactly what we're aiming for. Yes, that you won't see the same thing over and over again. And I think many times if people come to a play, you can trust us that even if it's something you've never heard of, it's going to be a very good production of whatever it is that you come to see. It might not be your favorite play when you see it, and you might not know anybody that's in it, but in some ways it'll open your eyes and introduce you maybe to something that you weren't aware of before, and you might love it.
It always is an interesting and entertaining experience. I mean, even if, like you say, you've never heard of it, it's a good chance to see something new.
I think that's one of the fun things about having a university in your community is that it brings in new ideas and artistic experiences that maybe some other small towns that don't have universities don't have access to.
Are things getting tougher with budgets and that?
Oh yeah, things are tough all over. We're all trying to scrounge around and figure out how to be viable in the community and to make ends meet.
Right.
The best thing that could happen is people come and pay admission.
People coming. So if they want theater to continue in Clarion, they should make every effort to end.
Absolutely. Please come out and support Clarion Theater. Come to Edges. You won't regret it.
And they can just go to clarion.edu and on the homepage and pick an option to buy. That is really convenient now to just do it online, and you can use a credit card or whatever to pay for it, and then just pick up the ticket at the will call office.
Right. And if the web's not your thing, you can call the university, and they'll route you to the right person, so you can order your tickets on the telephone as well.
Right. And sometimes there's a few left over at the door, and they can just show up there.
Yes.
But there will just, what is it? A waiting period or something.
Yes, often if we have people waiting, we usually get them in.
Well, thanks for joining us on Clarion Connection today, Mel. It's been very interesting. Don't forget Edge is next week at the Little Theater at Clarion University. I'm Ron Wilshire for Clarion Connection.